our imperial equestrian.
Our grass pellets can be used as both a complete and complementary feed.
Our grass pellets contain high levels of antioxidants and vitamin E.
These pellets can be used as a grass substitute.
We target the entire equine population.
Imperial equestrian grass pellets are made with 100% natural ingredients. To give your horse that extra advantage, we have provided them with 11.2 megajoules of digestible energy per kilogram.
Our feed contains 90.9 grams per kilogram of ether extract. Essential fatty acids including linoleic acid is provided, promoting a healthy coat. Omega-3 and 6 are provided in the feed, useful for older and arthritic horses.
Our grass pellets contain 107.95 grams of ash. Minerals are fed in small amounts to help facilitate the horse's needs for the body. They're categorised into major minerals, which are measured in grams or kilograms, or trace minerals, which are measured in milligrams.
Our feed contains 155 grams per kilogram of crude protein. Protein is essential for the function of enzymes, hormones, and structural proteins. Proteins are also vital for the growth and repair of muscles, hair, and hooves, particularly the protein beta-carotene, which is a structural protein that enhances immunity and reproduction.
Our feed contains 306.81 grams per kilograms of crude fibre. Fibre is fermented in the hindgut of the horse to produce volatile fatty acids, which is used by the horse to produce energy.
Hello, we are now going to take you on a quick run through of the equine digestive tract. It begins here at the mouth, when a horse takes up food either by the lips or the incisors. A horse can chew 70 to 90 times per minute. The act of chewing creates saliva, which is essential for digestion. It is the scratching of food on the mucous membranes of the inner cheek that stimulates saliva production. The saliva is 99% water and contains no enzymes for digestion. It is possible for a horse to produce up to 30 litres of saliva a day. The main purpose of this saliva is to lubricate the bolus of food, aiding in the movement through the esophagus, and to also act as a buffer in the stomach. It is paramount, therefore, for a horse to have forage available in its diet so that it can produce this saliva. Without it, a horse could suffer from choke, which could cause serious damage to the lining of the esophagus and potentially cause death, as the obstruction prevents the horse from eating or drinking. This is why we recommend feeding imperial equestrian grass pellets, as they are small enough to minimise the risk of choke, and for extra peace of mind, our grass pellets can be soaked to meet the needs of your horse. The bolus of food is then passed into the esophagus, which in essence is a long tube reaching up to 1.5 metres long. It is lined with squamous epithelium cells, which act as a barrier to help prevent abrasions from the rough fibrous material. The bolus of food is then moved down the esophagus in waves of contraction called peristalsis. No absorption of the nutrients take place here. It then flows on into the stomach.
Enzymatic digestion typically occurs in the stomach, which accounts for 8% of the whole digestive tract. The stomach typically holds 8 to 15 litres at one time, and this usually takes around 20 minutes to 3 hours. From the esophagus, the food moves into the stomach through the cardiac sphincter. This sphincter is very well developed in the horse, and if there's excess gas inside the stomach, it cannot be regurgitated, which can typically cause colic. The esophageal region is part of the non-glandular region of the stomach. This stores most of the food. The cardiac region has mucus cells which produce mucus that's typically alkaline. This alkaline mixes with the acidic products of the stomach. This protects the stomach wall lining. G cells are found in the fundus region of the stomach, which produce gastrin. The gastrin hormones stimulate the production of hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is produced by the T cell. Pepsinogen reacts with the hydrochloric acid to produce pepsin. This pepsin breaks down proteins into peptones and proteases. Hydrochloric acid works to break down the ingested food and also ingested bacteria and kill it. Chyme leaves the stomach and into the small intestine here via the pyloric sphincter. The horse is a trickle feeder, so requires feeding little and often. When the horse is fed a large amount of feed in a small period of time, this pushes out of the stomach and into the small intestine before being treated by products of the stomach. This will now ferment in the small intestine and typically causes colic.
A small amount of gastric lipase enzymes are produced in the stomach, which break down fat into fatty acids and glycerol. Also, a small amount of fermentation occurs in the esophageal region, producing lactic acid.
The pancreas of the equine gastrointestinal tract controls the glucose metabolism using the pancreatic juices in order to neutralise the highly acidic material coming from the stomach in order for them to be able to be sent to the duodenum. The pancreas can neutralise up to 20 litres of stomach contents within 24 hours. The pancreas is a complex structure which takes on the role of enzymatic degradation of proteins, fats, starches and sugars by using the enzymes within the pancreatic juices known as lipase, protease and amylase. The purpose of the small intestines is to mechanically and chemically digest food in order to send it on to the large intestine. This part of the digestive tract equates to 70 feet long or 16 to 20 metres long, with a capacity of up to 50 litres depending on the size of the horse. This section makes up 30% of the overall gastrointestinal tract and consists of 3 subsections, the duodenum, jejunum and ileum. Within the small intestine there are bile salts present, although these are not provided by a gallbladder as the horse does not have one. Instead, bile is constantly trickled into the small intestine via bile ducts in the liver. The bile salts in the small intestine are used to emulsify fats, neutralise acid secretions from the stomach, and to stimulate a lipase secretion from the pancreas. The first section of the small intestine, the duodenum, makes up 5% of the small intestine and has a pH of 7.4. This is slightly alkaline and is a site for mixing the digesta and also for alkaline secretions through the Brunner's glands. The jejunum of the small intestine, which is the second section, makes up 90% of the small intestine and is the main site of absorption. This mucosal wall of the small intestine is folded and has finger-like projections known as villi, which increase the surface area of the small intestine, thus increasing the level of absorption taking place. 50% of all carbohydrate absorption and almost all of the amino acid absorption takes place here in the small intestine. Other nutrients which are absorbed into the body via small intestine are glucose, minerals and vitamins, which are all passed into the bloodstream in order to be used by the body. Fatty acids and glycerol pass into the lymphatic system. All structural carbohydrates pass through the undigested into the large intestine through the last section of the small intestine, the ileum, which makes up 5% of the small intestine, then pass through into the ileocecal sphincter into the large intestine in order for microbial degradation to take place. Electrolytes and lipids are also absorbed into the ileum. The small intestines are suspended in the horse's body and are held in place by the mesentery, which is a double layer of peritoneum that suspends the jejunum and ileum in the trunk of the body. Peritoneum is a serous membrane that forms the lining of the colon.
The large intestine is 2/3 of the digestive tract and holds 30 gallons or 100 litres of water and food. The method of digestion is fermentation. Fibrous materials will be fermented together with any other undigested matter from the small intestine here, such as starch, sugars and protein. Water along with some minerals, e.g. phosphorus, are absorbed here with volatile fatty acids and vitamin B, which is generated by microbial fermentation of fibre. The large intestine digests like a rumen of a cow, and digestion can take as long as 48 to 65 hours. From the small intestine, we move into the cecum, which is a blind sac approximately 1.2 metres long. It holds 28 to 36 litres of feed and fluid. The entrance and the exit are both at the top, which is why if the horse is not fed enough water within the diet, then they can form colic due to compactions. The microbial population of a hindgut can adapt to match the feed being fed, but this can take 14 days, which is why you're advised not to change your feed all of a sudden, but to introduce it gradually. The food is moved into the cecum from the ileum, and the microbial breakdown continues. It tends to be of fibrous feeds and hay that are broken down here. The food is churned and fermented until ready to move on, and it could be here for up to 7 hours to allow the breakdown. Energy is absorbed, producing volatile fatty acid, amino acids, vitamin K and vitamin B. Little, if any, protein will be absorbed. From the cecum we move to the large colon. This is approximately 12 metres long and holds 15 to 20 gallons of fluid and feed. It reaches here in as little as 7 hours and stays for up to 48 to 65 hours. Absorption of water, electrolytes and short-chain fatty acids occurs here, and the microbial digestion continues. Nutrients made through microbial digestion are absorbed here, including vitamin B, produced by bacteria, trace minerals and phosphorus. The ventral colons have sacculated formation, which is much like little pouches. This is designed to help with large quantities of fibrous materials. However, these pouches can become twisted and filled with gas from the fermentation, and this will then cause colic.
Roughage ingesta usually remains in the large intestine for 36 to 48 hours before passing into the small colon. The small colon is 4 metres long and holds approximately 16 litres. A small amount of water absorption occurs here from the ingesta, but the majority is solid waste from indigestible material. The small colon lies intermingled with the jejunum of the small intestine. The small colon can move relatively freely, and this can lead to abdominal crisis, e.g. twisted gut. The pelvic flexure of the small colon is a common site of impaction colic. The diameter of the small colon is 7.8 to 8 centimetres. The small colon contains sac-like structures that forms waste material into loose balls that characterise horse droppings. The rectum is a short, relatively straight tube about 1 foot long. It connects the small colon to the anus and acts as a storage area for faeces. Waste material is held in the rectum until it is passed out the anus. 2 sphincters control the excretion of waste material. The outer sphincter is under voluntary nervous control.
At Imperial Equestrian, our feed can be fed throughout the year as an extra source of fibre. It's particularly useful for the stabled horse, especially when turnout is limited or of poor quality. For an extra treat, why not try soaking our grass pellets in warm water for a winter warmer for your horse? For a happy, healthy horse, feed Imperial Equestrian grass pellets.